she showed me her oatmeal. She said, you know what, for years, I'm wondering why it's so soupy. So I just looked over and I said, because it's raw, bitch. She goes, what do you mean? I put hot water. I'm like, those are raw oats.
It's almost like your number one opponent is yourself.
I do have a shirt. I didn't know if you were small or large.
Oh, shit.
No, I have it in the car.
Oh, what? Really?
About 90% of the people I beat, I know they're better than me. They just didn't realize it on time. By the time they noticed that the fight was over, my hands was raised. If you lie to yourself, the consequences come right back at you.
We're good. We're going.
Let's do it.
Helen of Fairfield, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like I'm talking to a bona fide celebrity badass.
I'm glad you feel that way.
We were talking off camera about yesterday. I was kind of catching myself up on all the fights you've had on YouTube, got to watch some interviews with you. And I mean, one thing was absolutely clear. Every time you step into the ring, I feel like you got something that the other fighters don't. What is that?
I don't give a fuck. And that takes you really far when you're a fighter. I mean, being smart is important, but when you think about it, how smart is it to go someplace to get hit in the head? That's not smart. So you got to put all of that aside, and you have to have this kind of attitude where you don't care about your well-being when you walk in there. And I really don't, because I understand the implication of what I'm doing. And I see a lot of fighters that go in there and they're worried, they don't want to get hit, which you shouldn't, if you can avoid it. But that's not the one thing I have in my mind when I walk in there. To me, it's a spiritual experience.
When did you become a professional fighter? That was like 6 years ago, wasn't it? Something like that?
6-7 years ago, I started training.
Okay.
I became a professional less than 2 years afterwards because I ran out of amateurs to beat up. So that was 2018 for Invicta Fighting Championships. That's an all-female promotion. So all the fights are between women. And it's a pretty cool experience and a great platform for female fighting.
I have this vague memory. I think you and I used to live in the same apartment complex on Stone Street.
No, yes.
Okay.
It was 504.
Well, I didn't know who you were at the time, but I do remember you were wearing like a chef's. I feel like you were into culinary. Yeah,
I used to teach culinary arts at a community college in Ottumwa.
Oh, you taught it?
Yeah, Indian Hills Community College. And then I stopped cooking professionally, and I started making knuckle sandwiches. So it was an easy transition.
That's awesome. Well, how did that start for you? Like, what was the initial inspiration to become a fighter, but also to become a chef?
Well, as a chef, I used to help my grandmother cook a lot, but that wasn't my goal as an adult. But I used to live in New York, and my cousin Liz, she was a chef at the Modern, which is the Museum of Modern Arts. But I didn't want to be in the kitchen. I wanted to be front of the house. I just needed to make some money so that I can party, because that's what you do when you're in New York. But they didn't have any open positions yet as front of the house. So the chef allowed me to be in the back of the house in the kitchen until a position opened, because I needed to make some money. And I started working in the baking department. And for some reason, it was so easy for me to do that they decided to keep me there. And then I realized, well, I don't really like people, so I don't think I want to be front of the house serving entitled people that feel like the world should cater to them. And some of them don't have manners. So I was like, I can see that going really wrong. So I decided to stay in the kitchen. And I mean, I used to go to school for medical technology. So if you can make aspirin, you can definitely make a cake.
Yeah, no, baking is a science. That's amazing. And you just kind of naturally gravitated towards that.
Yeah, the pastry chef at the time, she was, they said she was a bit of a cunt because she didn't get along with anybody, because everything had to be so precise, especially fine dining. I mean, there's 5 different places in the building where you're serving food at the museum. Plus, we also had outside events that we have to cater to. So there was a lot going on. And if you weren't perfect, she would just immediately get rid of you. So they threw me in there. The head chef was like, let's see what happens. And then she was like, it was like magic. I can do 5 things at the same time. And she, we just got along. We had sort of the same personality.
And so then flash forward into fighting. What was that experience like for you?
Well, I always liked fighting. I used to fight a lot, non-sanctioned.
Yeah.
And so one day I moved to a new place, and I was supposed to have a housewarming, but it was a little depressed, so I kept postponing it. So a year after I moved, I had my housewarming party, and one of my friends came in, and he was like, "Oh my God, did you see Ronda Rousey? She got knocked out." And I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Ronda Rousey." I'm like, "You don't know who Ronda Rousey is?" And I was like, "No, should I know?" He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." And then he pulled up his phone and he started to show me the fight. So as I'm watching the fight, he forgot to tell me who gets knocked out. So I'm just watching the fight. But then she went for like a takedown and she missed. I didn't even know what a takedown was, but I knew something went wrong. And she turned and the camera just like focused on her face. And I just immediately saw the defeat in her face. I was like, that's the girl that's going to get knocked out. Like almost like, as if I had already watched the fight. So I finished watching the fight and it left me with the feeling like, I could do that. I could see myself beating people up for money. That sounds like a dream. And then nobody believed me. I got so drunk, and I was at the end of the night, I was like, I'm going to go train and I'm going to be champion. And it's my house. So no, they're not trying not to be rude. So everybody's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But then the next day when I woke up, I was like, I remember saying I was going to be champion. I'm going to start training. So I just started training and I just kept showing up.
And now you're a professional fighter.
Indeed, yes.
You started out as a strawweight, right?
Correct.
Okay. And now you're a flyweight.
Well, now I'm chubby, and I realized this is where I get my superpowers from. So I went up in weight because during the pandemic, there was a lot of fights that got canceled. So I kept scheduling fight, and I worked really hard because that's all I can control. I mean, everybody has more experience than me. I started training, I was already 27 years old. And so I was like, okay, I need to catch up. When these girls are sleeping, I need to be training so I can catch up with them. Because now I'm in the biggest female promotion in the world with less than 2 years of training at that point. I was like, that doesn't sound real. So I kept training and I kept training, but the fight kept getting canceled. And because I didn't fight and I didn't have any money, I felt like I didn't have any reason to celebrate or take time off. Well, I ended up training for so long without fights that I ended up holding on to muscle mass that I didn't factor in to when I finally ended up fighting. I was just, by the time I finished cutting the weight, I was just a shelf of myself. It was just like I lost my depth perception. I couldn't hear. Like it was almost like you are descending from high altitude. Like when the airplane is landing and your ears just, you feel like they need to pop. And I realized and I passed out 3 times trying to make the weight. So I was like, you know what? Even if I have to fight bigger people, I don't ever want to feel this way again. To get in a cage to fight a professional fighter when you can't hear and you can't tell how close things are, it's a recipe for disaster. Yeah. And that's when I decided to go up in weight.
Nice. And so what do folks do when they try to cut weight? Are you just like in the sauna for like 5 hours, just like...
That's the wrong way to do it. Because the heat, the hot heat, I mean, the sauna, you can enjoy the sauna up until a certain point, but then you're not enjoying it anymore when you start to dehydrate. Yeah. So what I usually do is a water cut. So for 6 days, I started water loading. So it's taking 2 gallons of water day 1, 2 gallons day 2, then 1, then half. So it's pretty much tricking your metabolism and your body into thinking that there's too much liquid. Then you take out salt out of your diet and the carbs. So now there's nothing to hold on to water, and your body already thinks there's too much water. So you lose most of the weight that way. And then by the time, the day before the weigh-ins, you have to get on the scale, there might be 3-4 pounds left. And that's when I get in the hot tub, not the sauna. I can't stand the sauna when I'm cutting weight. So you get in the hot tub for 15 minutes to get your body really hot. And then you put plastics on. So your body's trying to cool you down, but of course you're grabbing plastic. So you continue to sweat the last 3-4 pounds, and then that's it. But getting in the sauna for hours and hours, I know some people do that. It's definitely not good. It's not a good strategy.
No, it doesn't sound healthy. And
it is.
But you said in another interview that if everyone just went to their natural weight class, that there would be fewer injuries or just stronger athletes, essentially.
I would say both. Yeah. And we will have more entertaining fights, because what happens is that the professional level, cutting weight has become such a phenomenon that everybody does it. At the beginning, people were doing it so they can have a weight advantage. You have these guys, depending on your size. For me, I'm small, so I can't cut that much weight. But you can have a guy that fights at 185, but he's coming down from 210. So by the time he cuts all this weight in 24, 48 hours, and then his body becomes a sponge. And then by the time the fight comes around, he's no longer 185. He's 200, 205 pounds. He can gain back 15, 20, 25 pounds. And it used to feel like you have a weight advantage. But that's not true because everybody's doing it. So nobody really has a weight advantage. You're just all dehydrated, 50% performing athletes at this point. And because when you get to a certain point that you hit a wall, you don't want to miss weight because they will shame you forever for that. If you hit a wall and your body's no longer willing to naturally lose weight, then you start losing liquid from everywhere. So your joints, synovial fluid in your joints, your spinal fluid in your head. And then what happens is that when you get hit, there's not enough liquid, whether it's your head or your joints, to keep that lubricated. So if it's in your brain, hits the wall because there's not enough liquid there, you get knocked out more easily.
Yeah.
And if it's just your joints, you're more likely to hurt one of your ligaments or pull a muscle. It's a recipe for disaster. So I truly believe that if everybody went up a weight class, we will have better fights. Fighters will have better careers, and we will have a better show as a fan.
Yeah, that one fight, who was it against? Bare knuckle. You guys were both going at it so hard. It was incredible. And the crowd was just going absolutely nuts. It looked like people were giving you guys a standing ovation. What was that experience like? Are you going to do any more bare knuckle fighting or?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that fight came about that I hurt my right knee. So I have just come out of a knee on my left leg where I tore 3 ligaments. I come back and I'm training, and one day I hurt my lateral ligament on my right leg, and I was so mad because I just came back from that. And it's just, it really, it broke my heart. So I'm like, I can't grapple. And my opponents don't want to strike with me because they don't want to catch his hands, which I totally understand. It's not a good night for you if I land some punches. So I knew that now my MMA career was in jeopardy because I've been barking at everybody. Nobody wants to fight me. I'll fight anybody. And then 2-3 days after I said that, then I hurt my knee. And I'm like, oh, wow, if I get a fight right now, I'm going to have to decline. And then the Bare Knuckle champion, she decided to call me out. And I was like, you know what? I'll do that. It's boxing. I don't need to grapple. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Wait, so when you agreed to do that fight, was this just like days after that injury?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So instead of being humble and I don't have insurance, so I couldn't get an MRI. I just knew what it was by watching 100 hours of YouTube videos because I couldn't train. And I figured out, okay, it's the lateral ligament. It's not as bad as the ACL, So I'm like, okay, the ACL is bad news. You need surgery. The LCL, I'm like, it's bad, obviously, but I'm like, if I can strengthen my leg around there, the muscles around there, I can hold it together and I don't have to grapple, it will be fine. But I didn't count on the other girl as the champion for a reason. And yeah, it was a real fight. So when I got in there, I remember, because I was trying to raise money, but I don't have sponsors. So I made this shirt to make some money, so I can keep training. And in the back of the shirt, I put the hashtag of the event, #BKFC7. So when she knocked me down in the second, because she was way better than me, I just remember the hashtag. I'm like, oh no, when people Google that, I don't want it to be just me getting beat up. I had to get up and do something about it. And then it became pretty much a battle of the wills. I mean, you need a dancing partner for that to happen. But that's one of the best bare knuckle fights in modern history. And it was because of that. Neither of us was taking a step back. Neither of us was about to give up, and it went to decision.
Yeah, that was a hell of a fight. And then I feel like something else that I've noticed as a general trend of your fighting style is if you get hit, it feels like you come back and you hit twice as hard.
Yeah, because you're just pissing me off now. That's just rude.
That's awesome. How did you cultivate that? What is that sort of determination? Where does that come from?
Well, I don't like anybody touching my face. That's all I got going for me right now.
You got a pretty face.
I want to keep it that way. So yeah. I don't know why I always get offended when people punch me. And that's why I get so mad. Hopefully I'll get it under control one day. That's why I start throwing wild punches. Trust me, my coaches teach me art. But then I get hit and I go out there and I doodle. It's just I'm going to throw as hard as I can until I break your will.
Street level strategy, which is just maybe rugged.
Oh, absolutely. Not only that, when you go train, nobody teaches you how to block a haymaker because that's not a real thing. And at a professional level, they're not expecting to throw punches like that because that makes no sense, but also they land. So I find a good punch is not the pretty one, it's the one that lands. So I do it, and they always complain, the champion, after I won the belt, she kept saying that, oh, I was preparing to fight a professional, not a bar brawler. I'm like, so you're pretty much saying that I beat your ass because I didn't know what I was doing. So I don't think you should say that. It's not. You should be saying other things, like praise me so you look less bad about me being your only loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's like they say, losers make excuses, winners make it happen.
100%.
Yeah. I also want to talk about The Ultimate Fighter. Which you were just on recently, but I feel like I have all kinds of questions for you. It being a reality TV show, one that I'm less familiar with, but what was that experience like for you?
It was a hell of an experience.
Was it really? Yeah.
It was more than I expected. I'm very like an introvert. And I watched some of the previous seasons, so I knew what I was getting myself into. But knowing what you're getting yourself into and actually being in there are two complete different things. So it was very stressful, especially because I feel like I got cheated out of the show on my first fight. I know I won the fight. I had a lot going on in the background. I tested positive for COVID when I first got there. So they weren't sure if I was going to be in the show. So they gave me 5 days to test negative. But I didn't know because I didn't feel sick. So I started putting sanitizer on my nose before. They would test me every day before every test because I didn't want to test positive and I didn't know what to do. But apparently doing that, it ate away at the lining of my sinuses. And I got an infection because Vegas is really dry. So it was almost like having scabs inside your nose. So now I can't breathe. But I don't know I have a sinus infection. I think I have COVID because that's what they told me I had.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm hiding COVID for weeks by putting sanitizer on my nose. So I couldn't breathe. So I thought, I'm just going to outpoint this girl until I figure out, what's going on. Why can't I breathe? And I feel like hot right here all the time. And I was afraid that I might run out of gas, as they say, during the fight. So I was like, okay, I'll be more conservative with my energy because I can't breathe. And because of that, it went to a decision that I won, but they gave it to the other girl as a split decision. And that broke my heart because I was like, dude, I know I beat her. And it was very disappointing. Now I'm back in the house that I was the first fight. I know I'm the best fighter here, but now I'm not even on the competition. So it's like, what do you do? Yeah. And then you're being recorded 24/7. It gets stressful. Every time there's like, you're wearing a microphone all the time. That's where that matching necklace we have is actually a mic.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So when you, like say you and I are in a separate room and we're having an argument or whatever, they know because they can hear you. And then they send the heavy duty cameras to where you are. That's why it looks staged, but it isn't. It's just, they know where to be because they can hear you 24/7.
I mean, there's got to be things that they do to make it like a really drama-filled TV show. I mean, it's Hollywood. It's TV.
Yeah, no, they don't. It's just the isolation. When you're in there, you're not allowed to have your phone. There's no TV. There's no music. There's no books. So when you have nothing else, you kind of have to interact with each other.
You talk shit with your...
Yeah, you have... At this time, we have 8 heavyweights. They're all alpha males. And you have 8 women's flyweight. They're all alpha women. So we're bound to have issues. We're sharing the same fridge. We're sharing the same kitchen. And that alone, even with a roommate you're sharing the same kitchen with, you constantly want to punch them in the face. Because they, there's always little petty things that are small problems. They become big because you don't have any way out of your own head. So they don't really have to stage anything because it happens organically. Yeah. And when you're being recorded 24/7, they're bound. And then they do the editing.
Right. A fish tank,
Yeah, it feels just like that.
Yeah.
You're floating in your own shit.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. The only other reality, well, I don't know if it's reality TV, but I'm super into MasterChef with Gordon Ramsay. That's, wow. That's like my one guilty TV pleasure. But what are some of the other TV shows that you like to watch?
I don't watch reality TV. It's just too,
it's garbage.
It is. It's like, it's just like sitting, like becoming a toilet and sitting in front of a butt. Like, it's just...
That's great.
I don't like that. Anything that I watch is fight related, especially now because I started so late. So I'm really trying to give myself a chance to win by studying. So I watch a lot of fights. I watch a lot of interviews from other fighters. I want to know what the mindset and the training and the diets of the people that I look up to, what they do, what works, what doesn't work. I like to watch pre-fight interviews, but I also like to watch the post-fight interviews to see how it matches up, after I watch the fight, to see how the perspective changed and just trying to get like an all-around idea of, what to do next, because there's so much in the sport. It's very dirty. Like combat sport is very dirty and it's manipulated, and you need to know how to navigate it.
How do you prepare for a fight?
Well, mostly I train. I train really hard. If I don't have an opponent, I train on the things that are considered to be my weaknesses, but I also focus on my strength because I don't want to get away from that. If once I already have an opponent, they tell me, okay, you're fighting this person, then I look at what they're really good at, and then I think to myself, how can that person beat me? I don't always look at myself winning at the end of the night. I play all the scenario in which that person's going to beat me and how they could based on the information I gather on them. And then I reverse engineer it to make sure none of that shit happens.
Absolutely. It's almost like your number one opponent is yourself. And you almost need to conquer yourself first in the training. Like, I don't know. Would you characterize it as that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds corny, but it is true. You are your biggest opponent. I've seen people, about 90% of the people I beat, I know they're better than me. They just didn't realize it on time. By the time they noticed that the fight was over, my hands was raised. So it is definitely, you're definitely competing with yourself every day. And if you cut corners, you remember it, you know? Like say we're doing all push-ups and we're supposed to do 50. I know I did 35, but I'm 50. And I get up and nobody else notices it. And you look like you killed the workout. But when you're about to walk out, you start thinking about all the stuff that you didn't do.
Right.
All the corners that you cut. So that's how I prepare myself, is by making sure I check all the boxes. So when I'm walking out, I don't feel the pressure like I have to win. I don't feel the pressure like, oh, what people are going to think if I lose? Because people are going to say what they want no matter what. I can win or lose. I'll have the same amount of followers or haters. So I don't take that baggage into the ring. I just make sure I took care of what I needed to do. And then after that, the best martial artists win. And that's why I feel like so calm when I'm in there, because I put myself there. You know, wherever you find yourself at one point in time, you made an appointment to be there. And in this case, you even signed a contract to be there. So there's no surprise.
What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned in the ring?
I will say that because it's a team sport where you're training with your team, but when you go out there, you're on your own pretty much. And I realized that that's the one place in the entire universe where you cannot lie to yourself. You can lie to yourself out of it, you know. Somebody cuts you off, it's their fault. You don't think about the fact you were going too slow in the fast lane and you were being an asshole. You're like, oh, this guy just cut me off. Or you can lie to yourself on a daily basis, but when you're in there, you cannot afford to do so. It is, to me, the realest place on the universe. And it's all up to you, up to what you can do. If you lie to yourself, the consequences come right back at you. So it's just very real when you're in there. And, you know, that's the main thing that I got from it. It's like, you have to stop lying to yourself. And now if you're able to take that outside of the ring, you have a better life.
What do you value most in the world? I'm curious.
Food.
I
love eating. I love food. I love vodka. But no, I mean honesty and integrity. I value integrity the most as a value from other human being. Like if you have integrity, I don't really care what your bank account says. To me, you're a real person. I value real interactions with people. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And I love animals way better than people. Like it's not even close.
Well, you have a dog, right? One dog.
They're all my dogs. So when I see a puppy, I have to talk to it.
Well, yeah, like what you just mentioned about, you step into the ring. It's no bullshit. You know, there's no faking it.
No. I mean, you can try.
You can try, but you'll get the fist of fury.
Yeah, you'll get an immediate review.
That's awesome. Do you have any upcoming fights, or what's next in your career, you think?
Well, as of last night was the finale for the show. So I'm finally out of that contract. So I became a free agent and I made that public. So I'm looking at some of the things that are coming in. Most of the promotions want to lock you into an exclusive contract, which, you know, I'm 34 years old. I cannot afford to spend 2 years of my career on a smaller promotion because, you know, the goal is to make it to the UFC. Not because I care about the UFC, it's because other people care. And this is the one time where I care what people think about me, because I want to be a motivational speaker. But people, unless you're popular, they don't want to hear what you got to say. You know how many homeless guys I had conversations with that are genius, but nobody cares what they have to say because of where they are in life. So the main reason why I want to make it to the UFC is so that I can have a hold of the mic and people will pay attention because of my accomplishment. But I don't, you know, I see it differently. But that's all I'm doing. So I'm probably fighting September 28th. I'm still waiting. This will be for Invicta FC. Out of the offers that I have, the only, promotion that I feel a connection emotionally is that promotion, because I started with them. And even though the contracts are exclusive, they always let me, if they see that an opportunity comes out, they let me have it. They let me take it. Even when the Ultimate Fighter came in, I was under contract with Invicta FC. And I told them I wanted to do that. And she said, good luck to you. And she let me out of the contract. Now that I'm done with the Ultimate Fighter, she's willing to take me back. So, when people are there, they look out for me. I'm always, more prone to lean towards them.
So you said September 28th. That's coming up.
Not fast enough. I wish it was next weekend, because I just came back from training with the world champion, Juliana Pena, for 10 weeks. I'm at peak right now, but now I have to wait another 8 weeks to fight. So I have to now maintain that shape. And I'll tell you right now, I look like a professional athlete 6 weeks out of a year, not consecutively. After I fulfill my obligation, I eat a lot. So now my biggest thing is just to keep my weight down and keep everything fine-tuned for fight day, because I'm ready to fight right now. So I hit the peak thinking I was fighting yesterday on the 6th for the top finale, which I ended up not doing. And now I have to stay at peak for another 8 weeks, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's kind of like being in the hot seat or something.
Yeah.
So, but that sounds like a pretty amazing training experience. What goes into that? What did you learn from that?
Well, the girl I was working with, the champ, Juliana Pena, she's a grappler, and she's really, really good at it. She's so good that she actually beat my favorite fighter, which used to be the champion. She took the title from her. And I was like, wow, she beat my favorite fighter. And now I had an opportunity to go train with her because she was one of the coaches in the reality show. So because our styles are different, she was able to complement some of the things I was lacking in. And even though she lost her fight last weekend, there was no losers there. It was a hell of a fight. And now they're 1-1. So there will be a trilogy in the future. All she did was show everybody why she is who she is. I mean, that girl, it's very easy to keep going when you're winning. When you're winning, to keep going is fun. I smile a lot when I'm winning. When you're losing and you just keep coming, that tells me a lot about your willpower and who you are as a person and as an athlete and as a fighter. And she did that.
Yeah. How have you handled defeat in your throughout the course of your career so far? How do you come back from that?
It is hard, because the few times I have been defeated, I have had some extremely valid excuses, because even though they're valid reasons, they're excuses nonetheless. Because sometimes I have, like, I fought many times with one leg and I still win, but there was one day that didn't go my way because I was fighting a high-level wrestler and you need 2 legs, apparently. So, like, I had that going, so I knew about that, but I didn't have insurance. So I couldn't say that I was injured before the fight, because then I wouldn't get my MRI. So the times that I had fall short, it was beyond me. I just felt like I needed to fight because I put so much into it, so much work. And I don't have that many sponsors that I rely on actually getting paid to be able to continue. So no matter how I'm feeling that day, I'm still going to fight. So far, which is important for a fighter, to think that you didn't really lose is important. Once you start getting losses where you were 100% and everything was fine and you still lost, that really messes with your ability to get back in there. So I haven't experienced defeat where I felt like it was my fault. I guess it could be just my brain protecting me from reality, and I'm not even going to argue with it. I need that to keep going.
Yeah, that's good. So what goes into diet for you? For
me, I do intermittent fasting. So like today I haven't eaten yet, and it's probably like around 2 p.m. So I eat like around 3, 4, depending on what I'm doing. If I was training today, I didn't train. But if I was training, my first training session will be fasted. Then I come back and I eat a heavy meal with carbs for recovery and to get ready for the next training session. And then at night, no carbs, like, close to 21 grams, like just avoid the rice and the potatoes and the pasta, things like that. And it's easy, especially now that I'm fighting at 125. I can keep my little belly. This is a gas tank. So dieting is actually very easy for me now. And even when I was cutting to 115, I would just have to be more, like I'll have my coffee black, no sugar, no cream. Now I get to put cream in it, which is awesome. Still no sugar.
Nice.
I try not to drink calories. So like I don't drink anything that has sugar in it. reserve those calories so I can have bigger meals because I love food.
Yeah, I feel like I fell into intermittent fasting, but totally by accident. So I'll just, I don't know, like work all day and then just, oops, lunch is at 3. And then, you know, maybe there's a dinner or something. But I have like a really erratic eating schedule for whatever
Yeah, I didn't know it was called intermittent fasting, but now I have something to call it.
Right, exactly.
It fits into my budget perfectly.
So, and I'm curious too, like, what do you do like post-fight? Because that's got to be a tremendous relief, right? You spent all this time training and you get to, do you take a couple of days off? What does that look like?
I usually take a week off, and my celebration consists of me just eating a lot of food and drinking a lot of vodka. That's pretty much what I do. Everybody's like, you want to celebrate? I'm like, what restaurant are we going to? I look at the menu before we get there. You better order fast because I'm not waiting for you. So I do eat a lot, and then I have some vodka and I hang out. Like I might go to the bars around the town, you know, shake hands and with people, take pictures. But then after a week, maybe a week and a half, then I'm right back to training. So I get back, you know, after a week, I might only be training once a day. Then 2 weeks after the fight, I'm back to 2 a days. Then once I get something else scheduled, then I'm training 3 times a day. Cool.
And so what's the favorite cheat meal of the...
Well, it depends on where I'm at. Like when I'm here in town, I actually love the burgers at the cider house.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. I always order the bacon cheeseburger and then the country low broiled shrimp.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I order the same thing, I don't even look at the rest of the menu. It's so delicious. So that's like my go-to when I'm in town. If I am out of town, I just look at whatever best restaurants they have. If there's such a curry platter on the menu, I'm always gonna order it.
Hell yeah. And then you still cook a lot?
I do when I'm home, but because I travel so much for training, you know, you don't have the time. I mean, I still cook here and there, but I rely more on like meal preps.
And then you said training's out of Chicago, right?
For this camp, yes.
Okay. But it's not usually? Or?
No, that usually it could be in Georgia, it could be in Rockford, Illinois, it could be in Des Moines, it could be in Colorado, it could be in Orlando. But I think for my next one, I might go back to Chicago or I might go to Pennsylvania, because there in Philadelphia, there's a very good gym, Martinez BJJ. And their training style is kind of opposite of my style. So I kind of like that idea of getting better with my wrestling and stuff like that.
So that's a lot of on the road for you.
Yeah, I put on a lot of miles. Every time I change the oil, they're like 3 months. I'm back in like 4 weeks. I'm back here.
Nice. Oh, I had another question for you too, which is like, how in the hell did you find Fairfield as your home?
It was an accident. No, my cousin Liz, she used to be my legal guardian and my roommate in New York. And then one day she just told me, she's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to Fairfield, Iowa. And I thought she'd say Idaho. I was like, right. Is that in the country? Is that in the United States?
Well, it's like if you tell people like, yeah, I'm going to Iowa, and they're like, oh, Ohio? Like, nice.
Yeah, or Idaho or something.
Know.
No.
Yeah.
So when she told me that, she had a friend here, her best friend used to live here. She said, like, I just need something. I can't deal with this anymore. So I'm like, well, that's my roommate. What am I going to do? Go on Craigslist? And I told her, I'm like, I just work a bunch of hours, you know, in the museum. We had like huge fine dining, like catering event. And I thought I was going to get a lot of money because you get paid overtime when you do this event. You get paid more. But it comes to a point with overtime that you're actually paying to be working, you know, because the taxes. So I got my paycheck. I looked at it and I looked at her. I'm like, where in Idaho? I said, I'm done here. And she came before I did. And then I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go all the way to the West Coast. I mean, maybe I'll go to Los Angeles. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then she told me to stop here to just like chill, you know, just stop here a week or two. This is an amazing town. Everybody's so nice. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I got here. There was snow up to my knees. And I come out of the car and I'm like, what are we going for here? Like, what's the plan? What's happening?
Absolutely.
And somehow I'm still here. I don't know. It was like a vortex.
I actually think it is. I don't know if you ever watched that TV show Lost. You know, the plane breaks down episode 1 and then they all just land on an island. It's super weird island and they're trying to get back home. They have no idea how to do it. That's kind of like Fairfield, just a little bit. But anyway, I always love asking that question because I feel like we have such a unique cast of people. And we have like a professional fighter to add to the list.
That is, I mean, I didn't think I was going to stay. I was like, what is happening? I remember like after week 2, I went to the store and this lady goes like, you look familiar. I'm like, yeah, there's only 5 other people here. Coming from New York, I thought there was a total of 10 people in this town.
Absolutely.
But you know, the good thing about Fairfield is that you get bored enough that you find out what you want to do when you grow up. So even though I was 24 when I got here, and I didn't start training until I was 27, I don't think I would ever become a professional fighter if I didn't come here. It's just that I finally had that moment of clarity because it's not, you know, in New York, there's always a noise going on. You just kind of like a rat on a wheel constantly, and you don't know how to get off of it because then you get dizzy. So you jump right back on it.
Right.
And it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes your life. You know, you're always running everywhere. You know, if you miss one train, your whole day is ruined now. You're off schedule. And like being here, and it was so calm, and I met some really cool people, and I started to appreciate people for who they were because they weren't trying to be somebody else. Like what you find in the city, everybody is playing a role. Like it's the whole thing is a giant reality TV. So I'm like, here I was able to like find myself and get bored enough to where I found what I wanted to do.
I mean, how many other fighters would you say have this sort of background that you do where they found it sort of later in their career?
Not many, you know, there's been a few, you know, but not many, especially now. You have people training since they're kids, you know, we have Ground Zero here. There's a kids class. So I'm looking at little kids that by the time they get to 20, they already have like 10 years of experience with fighting. You know, it's a complete different generation of fighters. There are a few out there, but it's, you know, it's usually in a specific art, like boxing. But then you're all day, you're training boxing or wrestling or jiu-jitsu. But mixed martial arts is few. But the ones that are usually successful because their body hasn't acquired as many injuries as someone that's been doing it for 10, 15 years. So even though I'm older as a fighter, I have a lot less mileage in my body than some of the people that started a little earlier.
I think that's a really cool way to break into industries because maybe your training started as a baker and you just didn't, like you're a born fighter, but then you discovered it later in life. We were talking about this sort of, I was saying street style that it feels like you come from. I don't know, would you characterize it as that? Or
oh yeah, I fought in the street a lot.
I mean, it's awesome. It's badass.
And only that, when I was teaching culinary arts, I quit my job there so I can concentrate. This is not something you can do part-time. I mean, you become just one of the many. So when I was quitting my job to do this, they were like, so you quitting your job that I'm working Monday to Thursday. I have a 3-day weekend every weekend and I'm getting paid really well. You're going to quit all that so you can go wrestle people in your underwears? I'm like, yeah, that's a way of looking at it. But my students is like, yeah, you were always trying to beat us up. So it makes sense. I was like the mean chef, you know, but just because I like things done a specific way. And they were like, yeah, we could totally see you doing that.
Well, yeah, you're all in. And I feel like that's the only way to be a fighter. Oh
yeah, I mean, you can half-ass it, but then it's not gonna. The consequences are too great. I mean, you can be bad at baseball and basketball. You can be bad at making videos, and you know, it's not gonna shorten your lifespan. Right, yeah. You go in there and you do it halfway, and then you find out that now you have a concussion or CTE because you were doing it halfway. And sometimes you might have legitimate reasons for it. Maybe you have a family of 5 and you need to have 2 jobs. Well, if you can't train, you shouldn't do this. I don't recommend it. So that's why I became a starving artist. Like I can take jobs to pay a lot of money, but I can do that later too. I can be a chef whenever I want. I have I'm good at anything I decide to do, which sounds like a blessing, but it became a curse because that's why it took me so long to find out what I really wanted to do. Because I'll pick something and then I will do so much research and I will give it 100%. And then I'll become so good at it. Like when I was working for The Modern in New York at the Danny Meyer Union Square Hospitality Group with 0 culinary skills. Like I never went to school for that. And I found myself there. I taught culinary arts. I told my students I went to culinary school so they would respect me, but everybody knew I didn't, like the people in charge. Wow. I got the job by saying I didn't want the job. Like, no, I hate people. I can't be here. And he was like, you're hired.
That's like, awesome.
Fine.
Like, since embarking on this journey, what are some of the biggest, what's the greatest piece of advice someone's ever given you?
give it 100%.
Mm.
And it can take different, I think it's up to interpretation when somebody tells you to give it 100%. Anybody can say that, but the person that said it to me meant it. He said, if you give it 100%, I think you can be champion. You just have to be a little bit smarter. I can't argue with that. That was my coach, Sergio Cunha. And he said, if you give it 100%, you'll be there. And I always knew that. Like, I realized by looking at people, like most people, they half-assed the entire life. And then wonder why they're not getting what they want. So you start doing something, like say you have your podcast, you do 5 videos and you're like, oh, it's not working, so I'm going to go do something else. You do that something else for like 2-3 weeks and it doesn't go your way. And then you move to something else and you're never good at anything if you don't give it 100%. It's like
so true.
Dividing your army in 100 places and going into battle. Like, it's not going to end up well for you.
Yeah. Well, this is like my fighter's ring right now, which is like hot seat, sitting in front of people having conversations. But it's funny when you're starting out, I'm sure you can relate. It's just you're grinding from nothing. And, you get some notoriety. People are like, wow, this person's got potential. And but like, yeah, I'll go through all kinds of I'll take breaks here and there, and I'm usually better for it. But it takes a lot of endurance and persistence. Like I have days where I feel like I should just kind of give up. But then I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm a champion. Yeah. I'm going to keep going.
I'm going to keep going. I get those days too. It's like after this experience in The Ultimate Fighter, I pretty much lost a month of my career because they made me sign this contract, but I couldn't fight until the finale. But then, they didn't put me in the finale like they say. They edited me out of the show. The whole point of me doing the show was because I wanted people to see another side of me besides fighting, because I thought that was going to get me more traffic to my social media. I don't care about social media, but the promotions do. So the more followers you have, the more likely you are to get sponsors, the more likely you are to get paid more. So I was trying to play that game because, trust me, being in a house with fisting other fighters is not my dream. I did it just because I wanted people to see other sides of me. There was a lot of things I did in the house that they edited me out of the show because, the editors, they have the ability to spin it anywhere they want. But I think they got someone really fucking lazy because they made this season that I was on as the most boring season of The Ultimate Fighter. And I watched all the other ones in preparation, thinking, that I was going to have an advantage by having all this knowledge. But then the way they edited it was almost like they just took the first video that came up and slapped it on there. And I'm like, well, give people a reason to want to see the fight. Once you edit everything out, I taught so many free culinary classes in that house, and you don't see me even cooking there. I taught people how to pour wine. There was this one girl, she showed me her oatmeal. She said, you know what, for years, I'm wondering why it's so soupy. So I just looked over and I said, this is raw, bitch. She goes, what do you mean? I put hot water. And I'm like, those are raw oats, not instant oats. You're supposed to cook it on the stove. And she was like, I've been eating it raw for years.
Oh my God.
So it was funny and it was, but they edited all of it out. And, I felt when I got back, I was depressed, but I'm on a non-disclosure agreement. So I can't even tell people I didn't make it to the final. So now I have everybody thinking I won the whole show. Everybody asking me. I stopped going out. I stopped going to the sauna because I'm like, I can't talk about it. And I'm depressed because I know how it went. And just so trust me, I know what it feels like to want to give up.
Yeah, no, that's hard. And honestly, that's like 100% their loss. That I would have loved to watch that. That's a good angle.
There were so many fun things, cooking steaks for them, showing them how to do it. We would watch fights, we would have like taco days. They decided to show me as the mean alcoholic instead of like everything else that I did in the show. After I was like written off, there was this other girl that I like. I wanted her to win because she had a tough time, but she was the most inexperienced girl in the house. I remember we have what they call confessions, where they bring you into a room just like this one.
Yeah.
And you talk about your fight. So I lost. I'm like, I know I won, but it doesn't matter what I think because according to the judges, the pretty girl won. Because the girl I fought, her dad had died while she was on the show. So anyways, they told me, so what are you going to do now? And I said, well, I'm going to make sure that the winner is going to come out of my team. And I'm picking Juliana Miller to win the show. And they were like, are you sure? Because she's a little unstable. I'm like, I'm going to do everything I can to help her. Well, she won the championship last night, but they edited it out. Otherwise, I could at least like cut that, video and use it on my page because I called it. But then none of it, they didn't show any of it. They just showed me being mean to people, and they didn't show all the other parts of me.
Well, it's that just Hollywood bullshit where, you know, there's so much more to a person than what it ends up making it on the cutting room floor. And then it's just, yeah, they're steering it in their weird sort of narrative ways that make...
Not only that, they shot themselves in the foot. They made it the most boring season. I stopped watching like 3 episodes ago because I was like, this is just too boring. If I want to watch fight, I tune into the fight. This wasn't about fighting. It's a reality show. People want to see more about every person that goes in there, like their personality, you know, how they are under pressure. And that's why I did it. That was the only reason why I did it. So the fact that they edited me out made me feel like I just threw 8 months of my career into the garbage.
Well, I'm sure you learned a lot. I mean...
Yeah, I learned that people suck.
Fuck them. Well, so maybe you'll hit a little harder next time on the next fight.
Oh, yeah.
Put it in the
I can't wait to get my hands on one of these chicks because somebody's going to pay for all of this.
I love it. I can't wait to see that. So if people want to, you know, follow you on your various platforms, where are you at?
Well, since I'm assuming my name is going to be part of this video, the title. So Helen Peralta on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter is Helen Peralta 123. See how creative I got?
Oh, nice. Yeah, Twitter's one of those things. I just haven't really given it any time or attention, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get on there.
No, Twitter is when people go just vomit their thoughts, and it's a horrible platform. But you need to have it. Yeah.
You mentioned you were selling merch at one point. Is that still a thing you might bring back, or?
Yeah, I didn't have set up a online store because it costs money to have a commerce account, and literally sometimes I don't even have gas money, regardless of what it says that my network is. I don't have any money, so I haven't been able to spend on that. So if I can have someone. That would be a great sponsorship, someone that's good with media and they can set these things up for me. That would be a good help. But I do plan on having that, like, store with all the different designs. This is the latest one.
Hell yeah.
So I designed it myself. So, like, the square signifies as the boxing ring. The circle is the bare knuckle ring, and then the octagon is MMA. So that's why it's martial arts.
I love it. Well, I was gonna say too that like I'm gonna have to sport one of your T-shirts at least, and you better have a sticker or something that I can put on my laptop. You know, things like that.
Okay, no, I do have a shirt. I didn't know if you were small or large.
Oh shit!
No, I have it in the car.
Oh, you what? Really?
Yeah.
I'm a medium usually, so
there's no medium. Okay. There's small or large now.
Large, because I feel like I have a bigger shirt to fill. This was great. What else do we want to leave our listeners with today? Anything?
You know, like, this is my favorite quote. When you wake up every day, I always think to myself, do not fucking suck today. And if you say that to yourself every morning, you have a greater day, a better day, and so will everybody you interact with.
Hell yeah. Well, Helen, thanks so much for being on the show. This is a real honor for me, and I wish you the best of luck in your next fight and in your career. I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, we did it.
Yeah, we nailed it, I think.
I think we did it.